everyone, it's Sarah. Welcome to another card tutorial. Today I wanted to show you how I made this card from start to finish. And I wanted to do this because this card actually uses about 4 different stamp sets. And one of the things that I have an issue with is if I have a stamp set in mind, I try and use that whole set on the card instead of trying to mix and match them. So I wanted to go ahead and show you this card and the different stamp sets that I used to make it. So let's go ahead and get started. First, what you're going to need is a piece of cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is the Certainly Celery, and then a piece of cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 2 1/2, and today I'm using the crumb cake for this. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make my border punch right here, and I'm using this fancy scallop border, and forgive me, I don't remember the name right offhand, but I'll have it on my blog. And for you that don't know how to use this border, these border punches, let me go ahead and show you. Right here, I don't know if you can see it, but right here and right here are lines on the punches, and this is where you need to line up the first edge of your paper. And then you're going to go ahead and punch, and the excess just comes out, so be mindful when you punch that. So now we have 4 scallops right there. We're going to take the second to the last scallop right there, and we're going to line it up with that little guideline right there. So our one scallop, our very last scallop, we're only going to be able to see just a smidgen of it. And then we're going to punch again. So now we have, 8 scallops. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line this second scallop up with this marking right here. Make sure that it's all even, and then punch. And then that way we can make sure that our scallops are even. So go ahead and get rid of the excess right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my cardstock my crumb cake cardstock right down here at the end, and I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to make a light line right here in that little scallop. And I'm going to just use this as a guideline so I can make sure that my flowers go underneath, and so it just flows nicely. So for my flowers today, I'm using the Field Flower stamp set. I'm using the stems right here, and then later on I'm going to be using that flower right there. So to make my stems, I'm using the Lucky Limeade ink. So I'm just going to ink my image up, and then I'm going to place it where I want it, keeping in mind that line that I made right there. I think I want this one to kind of go on an angle right there. And then again, and I think I want this one to go higher up. And then I'm going to add one more flower just to give it a little more. There we go. So it doesn't matter what it looks like down there, just as long as we make sure that our stems stay below that line. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use that flower from the same stamp set, and I'm going to be stamping this in the Elegant Eggplant. So stamp it right there. Right here. And right there. There we go. So now for my second stamp set that I'm using, I'm actually using the Perfectly Preserved stamp set, and I'm going to use that little bundle of flowers right there. And I'm going to be stamping that image in the Primrose Petals. So ink my image, and then I'm going to stamp right there. And, oh, you can't really see that guy right there, so I'm just going to make him kind of on the leaves right here. There we go. just like that. So we would stamp again right here, but it's under the line, so you wouldn't see that. So I'm not going to stamp it right there. So for now, we're going to take our crumb cake. Well, we can get rid of this little line right there. Take our crumb cake and make sure that it all lines up the way that we want. That looks really good. I love how that flower is just kind of peeking out right there. So now, to add a little something to my crumb cake, what I'm going to do is I'm using the baker's twine in the Lucky Limeade, and I'm just going to unravel a bunch here. I'm going to take my crumb cake cardstock, flip it over, and I'm going to put a little piece of adhesive right here. I'm going to take the end of my twine and I'm going to stick it right here on my adhesive. So now I know that it's going to stay there when I'm making it. So I'm going to, you can do this however you want, straight across, diagonally, however you want. I'm going to do mine diagonally like that because I like having that bunch right there all in one spot. Then you're going to stick your access piece down here at your adhesive again. And then you're just going to snip off the excess. So now it's not, you know, held down tightly here at the edges, so you can move it around, make it thick, make it, you know, smaller. You can play with it a little bit. So there, I think that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to my cardstock. Get in between all those little spots right there. And then I'm just going to stick it down. Whoops. There we go. Perfect. And there we go. So now for my greeting, the third stamp set that I'm using is Blooming with Kindness, and I'm going to be using that saying right there, I'm here for you. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that on a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock, and I'm going to be using the Elegant Eggplant again. Just gonna stamp that on there like that. There we go. Now to punch it out, I'm going to use the 1 1/4 circle punch. Stick that in there. There we go. And now to back it, I'm going to use the 1 3/8 circle punch, and I'm going to use the Primrose Petals in color again. Stick this down on my backing. There we go. Take a couple of dimensionals and adhere those to the back of my circle. And now I'm going to put this circle saying right here where my baker's twine kind of came into a bunch. And there we go. That's what it looks like so far. So now I wanted to add a little more something to the edge right here. So what I did was I took my Whisper White craft ink, sponged, got a little on a sponge, and then I just went around my edges. And this just gives it a little bit of a softer look. And I like doing that when you have two different colors, such as the green and the brown. It kind of, in my opinion, helps them blend in a little bit more. There. So just really light around the edges. So now I'm going to go ahead and I have a piece of cardstock for the base of my card. It's also the crumb cake, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just going to adhere my card down. Get it good and snailed up. put it on the base of my card. And now to add the very last finishing touch, and I keep this for last only because I'm using the Papillon, I can't pronounce what the name of the stamp set is, but the butterfly stamp set, and it has a matching punch to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp this on a piece of Daffodil Delight with daffodil ink. I'm going to do the tone on tone. So I'm just going to get this good and inked up and then stamp it down there. And then take my punch and punch it out. And the reason why I saved this for last is because I'm going to take a mini glue dot, there we go, and I'm going to puff up my butterfly. So I want to make sure that I didn't smush him when putting my card on my base. So get a mini glue dot here, stick him down there, kind of puff him up a little bit, and I think I'm going to stick him right there. So there we go. There is the finished card. I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and as always, happy inking!